Muhammad Ali was known as the greatest, not just for what he achieved inside the ring, but for what he fought for outside of it. I'm asking whether the absence of struggle has brought us to a modern era of mediocrity. When you consider what our forebears were able to achieve without the technology and resources of their modern counterparts, I think you can only conclude that our comfort and distractions have delivered decadence and decline. In 1783, William Pitt became our youngest ever Prime Minister at the age of 24. He led the country to recovery following the defeat of the hands of our American cousins and victory in the Napoleonic Wars. He even found time to advocate the end of slavery. But he wore himself out and didn't make it to 50. Today, 24-year-olds are more likely to aspire to Justin Bieber or Harry Styles. But they may also wear themselves out before they reach 50. For entirely different reasons. So I say, give us adversity and struggles, because without them, we will never be great.
This is the oddest piece of nostalgia that I'm hearing from the lips of June Sarpong. Give us that sort of struggles. The type of struggles that Muhammad Ali was fighting against was the deepest, most entrenched racism you can possibly imagine.
I agree.
Why are you pining for a time where you needed to have people who had to say, I won't go into the army to fight this war against Vietnam because I'm treated worse on my home turf than by a foreign country? Why on earth are you pining for that?
I am not pining for that. And maybe, Emma Barney, I'm being a little facetious.
Well, I'm here to unpick your facetiousness with my own.
Please do. But what I would say is when you look at the sort of heroes that we've created in the past and you compare them to modern-day leaders, it's a joke.
So who do you not rate in modern-day terms?
I think, I would say a lot of them, because there's a difference between brilliance, somebody who's exceptional or somebody who's extraordinary, to somebody who's great. And I think part of the reason that there was such a sort of an epic outpouring when Muhammad Ali died or when Nelson Mandela died is because we know we've probably seen the last of those sorts of truly great men.
But we've probably seen, I hope, in the Western world, the developed world,
yes,
the last of those sorts of battles where
that
it
required
really
those men.
Requires people to take such extraordinary stands.
Yes.
And equally, with the ushering in of a more gentle, equal and fairer society, perhaps you do lose some of that fighting spirit and some of the leaders that you're talking about. You don't get wartime leaders in peacetime.
No.
But what I would say is you also get better behaved people in their own homes.
Yes.
If I may put this forward, and it's not too soon after the death of the great man, Muhammad Ali had several illegitimate children. He also used to go on programmes like...
but
hear me out on this. People's private lives
people
now are very much in the tabloid press that didn't exist then. They are also all over Twitter all over the time. You used to hear from these people very infrequently and you wouldn't know anything about their private lives. It doesn't have anything against his racial struggle, but what I would say is the world that he lived in was a very unequal society between black and white and between men and women. And now everybody is expected to be working towards a very decent standard in their private and professional lives.
But what I would say, that the danger of it, and don't get me wrong, I am all for a fair and equal society, of course.
I had heard that.
Yes, you had heard that. But the danger of it, it means that our standards for the people that we celebrate is so low.
It's not. I don't think it is a case of being low. I think it's just more subtle. I think
it's
the impact.
Low,
I think
Graham.
the impact of people's achievements aren't measurable on the same scale. To Emma's point, that the divide was so big that if somebody really stood out as confronting that anti-establishment or, you know, dealing with rights, it on the face of it, it took so much bravery because they were making such great leaps. Whereas now I think success is there's less of a divide, therefore success and greatness is measured on a different scale. So Pope Francis, for instance, you know, I'm not a particularly religious person, but what he's achieving within the Catholic Church is immense. Absolutely immense. He's trying to bring it into a more modern era. But you can't give him the same recognition because the scale of what he's achieving isn't as great, I don't think.
And yet
But
also
you can't.
Yeah.
Society every so often throws up somebody who is very special, but there aren't many of them. I mean, the ones you've picked out two from the 20th century. You know, they really are.
There's quite a few
I mean,
more.
what's interesting, I think, about Ali was that at the time, I mean, I was around at that time. At the time,
No,
when,
you were.
Yeah, sadly I was. At the time, he was condemned, massively condemned in the United States for his position on race relations, for becoming a Muslim, for his position on Vietnam. 50 years on, he's the hero, they're the villains. And it's quite interesting that over time, when society has moved in that direction, which it has, I mean, no one in America today would defend Vietnam and what they did in Vietnam.
Not at all.
Nobody.
But I don't think that there is anybody, as, you know, to sort of Graham and Emma's point, that requires that same level of bravery. And that's what I mean, that we don't see that level of excellence
You can't
anymore.
tell now. You can only tell in 50 years' time.
Do you think?
I think you and Greg should be put in a naughty corner this week. Because I have to say to you, what's your point, caller? June, I just don't get your debate whatsoever. I don't get it at all.
My point is, OK, let's look at the people that we're celebrating now, Michelle. Give me some names. They're not that impressive. That's what I'm saying.
Politically?
Yeah, I know that, but
across the
board,
board, people that we would consider leaders in general, they are not that impressive.
But he was
and
an incredible sports guy. He's completely different if you want to celebrate politicians. You know, they're never going to excite you.
But even the politicians of today don't really compare to you know. We're not going to have a Lincoln in modern times, are we? And that's what I'm saying.
But that's because we've moved on and we don't, fortunately, have to try and solve all those issues that they had to solve.
Well, I've got a clip of Muhammad Ali for when he stood up against the Vietnam War and refused to fight. So let's have a quick look.
They say that actually every time that I enter the ring, in a way, I'm going to war. They say to me daily, you are a prize fighter. What's the difference? And I like to say to those critics of the press and to the others that there is one hell of a lot of difference in fighting in the ring and going to war in Vietnam. My intention is to box to win a clean fight. But in war, the intention is to kill, and continue killing innocent people.
I mean, it fascinates me, obviously, a sporting icon talking about politics.
Exactly.
And where I sort of understand a little bit of where you're going, although I don't agree with it, is the fact that if you compare it to modern sporting stars, very few of them have a political viewpoint. Most of them
they've got lucrative contracts.
Exactly that. Most of them think... And could you say that with politicians as well, to an extent?
They didn't in the 1960s. He was the exception. That's what made him different. And, you know, you go through that period, and there are odd people who by the circumstances they found themselves in, became, as you say, great. I mean, if you judged Churchill in 1935, you would have thought, this is nothing special. By 1950,
but look at who he became.
You'd have seen him as a great man.
People won't speak out because I think now we live in a negative society.
Who now would we compare to those men and women?
But I think to the point, we're talking about history, and you know, if we're looking back now, I think what you're saying there about, you know, hindsight is very important, because actually I don't want to sanitise Muhammad Ali. You know, I was just having a chat before I came on. He went on the Parkinson show and said, black people should only marry black people. Don't dilute my race. You know, he said some things, Jude.
Yeah, that was a bit extreme.
But I don't think you want to hold him up.
Well, history is selective in that respect.
But we do sanitise people as well.
We do. I get your point there. And, you know, there were a lot of things that Muhammad Ali said that I didn't agree with. But that does not take away from the fact that he was a great man.
And where I will agree with you...
so courageous.
Where I will agree... I'm going to give you a bit of help here.
Thank you.
Where I will agree with you is, I think, and this is to your point as well, Graham, is that people today are too scared of how they will be judged. So they are watching what they're saying. They are looking at who's paying them for this, for social media.
We're becoming more and more vacuous. And I think that actually, when we sort of look back 50 years from now, we will say that this was a bit of a nothing time.
The other point is, I think that there is so much celebrity culture. So somebody does something tiny and they make the front page. They become popular
takes a picture of themselves
very
on
quickly.
Instagram, a selfie.
But
Are you kidding me?
It's something you can't sustain over a period of time.
No, but out of all of those people will be one or two people who, when you look back in 50 years' time, you'll say they were great people. Yeah. They achieve great things.
But isn't it more worrying that we do actually still have some very important battles, like the lines between poverty and being able to live okay in this society are getting worse. The polarisation between those at the top and those at the bottom has never been larger. We have issues that are actually, in a way, much more entrenched, have always been there and are getting worse. where are the leaders for that?
Where are the
Look
voices?
at somebody
That's
like
my
Angelina
point,
Jolie.
Emma.
You know, she is a.
Yeah, but you can't compare.
I'm not
Angelina
saying that, but
Jolie
the work
to
she
Mother
does, she
Teresa.
stepped outside of her comfort zone to fight something a cause that she wholeheartedly believes in, and does incredible stuff. Now, to Greg's point, will history judge her as somebody that is iconic of our generation
You know,
because
I'm
of
a
what
big
she's
fan
achieved?
of Angelina Jolie. I completely respect her. I've interviewed her a couple of times. I think she's a phenomenal woman. You cannot, darling, but you cannot compare her to an Eleanor
not yet.
Roosevelt.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, well,
You don't know.
We'll see.
And also,
My
I think Michelle's
favourite-
right. We live in a negative time.
I'll end with Ali.
Yes,
My funny.
please.
I read all the stuff on Ali, and I thought the funniest line I saw was when, because you know he hated flying,
Yeah.
and he wouldn't put his seatbelt on. So the stewardess said to him, "Put on your seatbelt," and he said, "I'm Superman. I don't need a seatbelt." And she said, "Superman doesn't need a plane."
So actually, the
Well, there
best
you
line
go.
was the air.